Yo, how are you doing, folks? Welcome to episode 29 of the Simpa Life Podcast with me, your host, Simpa Maca. As always, I'm joined by my co-host and cohort, Mr. Maca. How are you this early evening today, sir?
Early evening. It is early evening. There's still very bright outside, but it's dull as fuck here. It's just grey, dark, overcast, rainy. I don't know how is the weather the same up where you are.
Indeed. It is very it's raining sideways currently. It's horrible. It may look bright,
Slanty rain. I like
slanty rain. It's very much an indoor kind of day. I've spent the whole day working on a last week in weed blog and a few other little bits. So yeah, I'm quite happy that we're doing this a bit earlier today, so we get a bit more of the evening to maybe chill and enjoy a good smoke.
Do you know what? That's lovely, and I've already thought of a thought, and I was just going to dismiss everything you just said, but let me acknowledge it first and be polite. Yeah, that's lovely, mate. Anyway, on to the next thing. Sorry. Basically, I put an awful lot of effort into this, into these name titles, and I was gonna fucking actually put them on as you were introducing, and I completely fucking forgot. So here's a swanky little new name title. Look at that! Oh, and guess what? There's one for me too. Magic, awesome. Isn't that great?
Well, I've got one nitpick. Is that a capital A inside the @ symbol?
No, the entirety of the font is capitalized, so I'm not entirely sure how to get out of that instead of using a different font. But it probably is, yeah. That's kind of weird, isn't it? Capital A at. Anyway, so yeah, welcome. For those lovely listeners at home, you can just take my word for it that those titles that I put in are fucking glorious. They're just magnificent, and you definitely need to check out the videos to see them in all their glory. I have another one for later on too.
Even if you don't want to come see our beautiful faces, yeah, by all means, check out the video just to see the wonderful graphics that Mr. Maca here is chucking together.
They're definitely not open source templates that I just used online, and definitely not any of that. But what I was going to say was, if any of our eagle-eyed viewers have noticed anything different, our cameras are also flipped this time around. You can actually read stuff, which is good. And also, nice. Also, Simpa can actually see what I can see for a change. So when I pull up a website, say for instance, I'm going to put this one up willy-nilly just for the crack.
You're going to have to provide context to the viewers at home for this.
Basically, the top left image is what I want to achieve in my life professionally.
Romantically.
Well, basically, I do you know when you recall a random GIF and it just sticks in your head for no apparent reason? It definitely isn't the over sexualization of it.
Can you describe it to our listeners that can't see what our viewers are currently witnessing?
Basically, there is a bald gentleman dressed in very tight white. Garments the whole way through, overly muscular, and is proceeded to take some sort of side squatted power stance and is mopping the floor in the sexiest way. I can't actually stop looking at his butt. It's magnetic. It's like watching a tennis match. So, dun, 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 dun. Anyway, the context about this was we were talking about this beforehand. And then we went into a rabbit hole. We were supposed to start like 20 minutes ago. And then we figured out, I was like, what the fuck is this? And I picked a couple of these images at random. And we found basically that there was extra bits. There was other people dancing in it. And then we figured out that obviously this is in some sort of Mr. Clean or Mr. Muscle or whatever. And it's actually a CGI, unfortunately.
Yeah, you can't aspire to have glutes like that. Wait, I suppose you can.
I can try. Oh shit! All right, they play.
All right, fancy graphics.
They play it again because they're still active. Okay, new toys, new things to learn. That was a really long way of saying. Hi.
Yeah, so as you eagle-eyed viewers and listeners may have gathered already, we're not joined by a guest this evening. We're taking the time to almost revisit episode 0.5 and kind of have a conversation that I think we also had around episode 10, somewhere like that. And it's basically just kind of touch base with you guys and to, I suppose, in some way, thank you for our somewhat successes that we've had thus far for building our listener base, and to kind of pay it forward and reflect on where we've come, to have a conversation about where we want to go.
Yeah. And just take a brief opportunity to jump back over here and just mention that obviously we normally pump the Patreon right at the end, but this time around we might as well just remind people that if you do want to support the show, then you can for less than basically a price of a coffee a month. You can help. What do you say? Keep the lights on around this place.
Yeah, keep the lights on.
And it does help. Obviously, there's things that we want to aspire to. We want to constantly improve the quality, the production rate, that kind of stuff. The equipment, eventually what I'd love to do is actually move into a full studio and have some of these guests appear in person. Because obviously, if you've seen the previous episode, which was quite a substantial guest, then you'll obviously, from our point of view, it's lovely to have somebody like Tommy Chong, but it would be even fucking cooler to have him in the fucking room, that kind of way. So, we'll get there, I guess.
Well, yeah, we're committed to this. I mean, like I said, one of the reasons that we're doing this is to kind of reflect on the success that we've had thus far, and we've had some brilliant guests. We've brought some awesome voices to this platform, and we've shown great growth, I would say. And yeah, exactly that. It's not just about sort of future aspirations to develop a physical studio. It's also about then the summer events that are coming up. We're booked to host a stall at both Paradise Gardens and Product Earth this year. So hopefully, all things being correct and good, fingers crossed, you'll be seeing me and Maca with our equipment sat in a little cushy little studio on the road, sort of
which
setup.
We still have to source.
Yeah, exactly. So that's part of what we need your patronage for here, guys. Is to be able to do that, and then to be able to have that road kit so that we can take this whole operation kind of onto the road, record these episodes live, and then be able to put out more regular content. We're loving what we're doing with the continuity and consistency of a guest a week. But I mean, over the summer, especially at some of these events, we could be smashing out a couple of guests a week if we can record several of them over a weekend at each of these large scale expos and events.
I mean, the portability would also allow, a celebration of you see, we've talked about on numerous occasions the reinforcement and the rebuilding of community and spirit, locality, that kind of way. So I mean, a cool thing to do if we were able to bring this on the road would be to actually take some time to actually highlight I don't want to say community heroes, because it's heroes is such a washed down term, especially since the fucking conservatives used it to as an excuse to not pay the NHS workers, you know what I mean, in the pandemic.
Yeah.
So, community champions, I guess, because of the alliteration. But it could be a nice little way, just kind of go, look, if you're in the area, don't forget to come down and check this place out, or this is what's happening here, and it's fucking class.
Well, it's something we've already I've already been in conversation with a few people before the iteration of this, or this iteration of this project, as it were, the Simpa Life. I made previous attempts to start something similar and do a road trip, basically. And so it would work out that each week you'd hit various different cities. You'd go to head shops, you'd go to clubs, you'd go to 420 friendly spaces, as it were, places that would host us, where we could then record an episode with guests, but also with a live audience. And I think that there's great potential to be able to do something like that as restrictions ease and both me and Maca can freely travel, and these events start kicking off every other weekend. So if we've got the portability and the capability, we can record these episodes on the fly.
And the petrol money.
Yeah, exactly that. I mean, we have picked up a few patrons, so shout out and thanks to the people that already do support us.
Yeah.
But any and all help, like I said, you saw there before, you can do it for as little as £3 a month, and it really does. Every little bit helps us get towards the goal of being able to finance this fully, because at the minute it's coming out of our pockets, and we're happy to do so, and we're here committed, and we're going to be passionately doing this regardless, even if we're sat here still not making anything from this in episode 2000. I'm still be happy that we made it that far and we've been able to continue and have that continuity and consistency.
People aren't sick of the shite that we're spewing out of our fucking gobs.
Hey, we're doing all right thus far.
Yeah, it's true, but we mention this obviously just to re-highlight it, because it's very easy to forget, that kind of way. By no means is there any pressure to, if you can't afford it, don't.
Yeah, it'll always be free.
If it's going to be a problem for you to fucking trust a couple of quid, then absolutely do not.
Yeah.
Do you know that kind of way?
You can support in many other ways, like share. I mean, luckily, it's interesting. Facebook have banned the Simpa Life page from uploading videos, and they've removed the video section from my end, so I can't see. You can, if you go through a search engine, you'll be able to get to the video section, or if you type in the URL. So basically, we've stopped uploading the podcast episodes there. We are then moving and copying over the URL for the YouTube videos. That is then gaining us more traffic, and more people are subscribing to the YouTube channel, which then in turn gains more traffic into the lives. So we do really appreciate it. Oh, there you go. There's Maca's other new fancy graphic down there for you. But yeah, it just shows that it gives us the time, the incentive, and the ability to create things like these graphics, to be able to then reach out through channels to guests of the caliber of people like Tommy Chong, to be able to provide them onto this platform. The more that we can work to have a more substantial audience base and a larger presence, the easier it is for us to sell ourselves to these kind of guests to want to come onto the platform. When we look, if they look at us and we're just low numbers and there's not good graphics, there's not good marketing, advertising around it, they're simply not going to respond to the messages, unfortunately. But the creation of that graphic costs money. It costs Maca time to then create these templates, to then build this. It takes us hours of independent research, sat on a night on our phone going, oh shit, we can do it this way, we can do it this way, having to learn about all these different processes. I mean, it costs us a month to pay for Zoom, costs us to pay for Restream. And this will be the last point I'm mentioning on it, guys, honestly, is that we're happy. We don't want to make money from this as individuals, but there is a certain expenditure that comes each month from providing this platform. And at some point that has to be absolved by the audience base of it, ideally, because I don't want to spam that. We don't want to fill everything with adverts. We don't want sections brought to you by. We might have to at some point, and we want to avoid it. Do you know that kind of way? And it's effort on our part. It could be like we could get a sponsor like that ticks all the boxes, that it's ethical and whatnot. But I mean, there's a time limit on that as well. We can't expect companies to just fucking throw us a few bob here and there, and we don't want to be sort of tied into anything in that regard either. But that's one of the points that I think our audience appreciates most about us, is that we are an independent voice, is that we try to provide a platform for honest and open discussions and debates. And so I think that it would potentially jeopardize that, or even if it just through the optics could potentially jeopardize it to the audience in terms of their preference to CBD company X or cannabis company Y. It just we're all about the honesty here, and being able to have that transparent conversation. You know what I mean? So, I'd rather learn some shit than not be able to talk about something because it might harm one of our sponsors' interests.
Yeah, indeed. But I mean, going back to say what you can do, and it comes down to subscribing, to sharing. You know what I mean? In community groups and forums and fucking gossip things, fuck them in there. Do you know?
Wherever you are,
just share to oblivion, right? Don't worry about. We appreciate it, obviously, but you know what I mean. If it comes from us all the time, it's sort of. I don't know. It doesn't lessen the image, but it devalues it, certainly. Do you know what I mean? If you're going, fucking hell, you know what I mean? I've shared this personally 60 times, whereas, other people can definitely do those things for us. Retweets, fucking, do you know that kind of way? It does help. It sounds like surface level shite, but unfortunately, this is the only way that we can combat against any sort of algorithmic pushback. Firstly, and secondly, we can talk about this an awful lot less if the pots are larger, if the numbers are larger, if there's an awful lot more people, subscribe to us or anything like that. It helps. It surely helps. Now, let's just shut the fuck up about this and actually talk about something, right? So,
I like it, yeah. So thank you very much to everyone that's then put up with us for that rant. Because, yeah, like I said, it's a passion and it's a love and it's something we're going to continue to do, but we need to figure out a way to be able to create longevity for this. So anything you can do to help, it is literally as small as saying to you, oh, have you heard about this podcast? If you enjoy us, if you want to share us on your social media, I understand that some people can't because of restrictions around family, job, etc. But just in any which way that you can, please do, even if it's just continuing to listen to us waffle on, because each little listen, view,
comments
it all helps. Yeah, man, just any interaction, man, because especially in feedback, we love feedback here. But yeah, onto it. So then where the hell are we? We're in the middle of 2021. The last time I suppose we sat and had this conversation was basically the start of the year. How has shit changed? Where are we? Where are we going? What are we doing?
You said that twice. I'm in my house. I don't know about you, like, fuck's sake. Where are we? Yeah, I mean, it speaks for itself. We're 20. This is what, 29 episodes in. We've done one full length extra Patreon episode. Off the back of Tommy Chung's, because we were just buzzing with energy. Well, you can see it. You can see the progression if you go back and look at 0.5 and the way that it's laid out, and all the little swanky little improvements to the text and all of these things. It's good. That kind of way. So it's a case of, I guess, where do we want to be? Where do we want to go this time next year? That sounds like an old man.
This time next year, Maga. We'll have 1 million subscribers.
Nah, I mean, look, it's grand. I'm happy with how it's going. We've had an absolute roller coaster of guests. The kind of way we've had teachers, we've had mums, we've had police officers, we've had fucking, as much as we possibly can. Doctors. Yeah, you know what I mean. It's been pretty cool. We still need musicians. Like myself and Jules don't. I mean, we count, but I'm talking about like established musicians.
Tommy Chung kind of takes a bit of that box, but he ticks a lot of boxes as well, though. But yeah, I think what we've done though is we've laid the foundation in these first episodes. So what we've done is we deliberately went after. That sounds so malicious, doesn't it? We deliberately chose to get certain people onto the podcast as soon as possible because they are individuals whose narrative and whose sort of story, I believe, needs to be told. They are people who deserve to have the opportunity. I don't know why Mac is hiding. Playing peekaboo for those listening at home. I wanted to get those stories on early, and we wanted to kind of solidify the cannabis scene quite early. And then from there, be able to branch out and diverse into other connected areas, and to show the commonality. And I think that's where we're on now. We're at that precipice. We kind of went for who's if we were a stoner podcast, who is the most iconic stoner we could have gone for? Tommy Chong. We've got him. We've got a few other big name cannabis celebrities and individuals that is just a case of securing dates for at this point. Obviously, it's really hard with global events starting to reoccur, which means that people are starting to travel. Obviously, the individuals that we're kind of looking to book often get the head speaker slots at various events around the world. So their time is very quickly filling up. So it's a case of us trying to work around their schedules. But it's now giving us the freedom and the option and an opportunity to branch out. Again, Tommy Chong being a wonderful seed, as it were, from this, because in that you've got an actor, a comedian, a musician. Do you know what I mean? I'm already in conversation with a couple of comedians to potentially bring them onto the platform. One of them very well known, as to whether I can get that to actually manifest. I'm going to keep fucking trying.
Athletes.
But then again, athletes as well. Yeah, we're doing that. I did a podcast, Chin Spin podcasts the other week with an MMA fighter called Cal Pacino. Call him the Sunderland Strangler. Really, really sound lad. Obviously, some people will have a certain misconception and idea about MMA and about fighting individuals and whatever else, and some of that may hold true, some of it may not. But again, it's anything that anyone is thinking currently is probably an over exaggeration. The conversation that we had for sort of 2.5 hours was really good. We highlighted the commonality of the two areas and of what people are seeking to achieve by being present within them, whether that's sort of being present in the cannabis community or training and wanting to be a fighter, and talking about like how drugs affect sort of performance, and talking about cannabis.
Hold on a second. All right. First and foremost, don't spoiler alerts, because fucking people might want to actually go and watch that. Secondly, are we gonna have this gentleman on?
Yeah, I'm in conversation with Cal. In fact, I'll be over right next door to where his studio and where he records next week. So I will be popping in to confirm a date with him.
Sound that's something that I'd love. I want to definitely talk to him about. Is Simpa spoiled it, but performance and all that kind of jive and jabs. Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, what else? I mean, what other sort of avenues are we missing?
There's a couple of actors, which we could potentially link again through the Cannabis Connection and through friend of a friend sort of style thing.
Theologian might be an interesting.
Well, obviously, we mentioned, I don't know if we mentioned quite early on, our dream aspiration is to get someone like Graham Hancock on the platform.
Yeah.
So, I think that would be the kind of sort of aspiration. People like Rupert Sheldrake and people like that kind of challenge the status quo of science, I think could be quite good. I don't know. Don't want to diminish anybody's opinion of anything, but sort of not the crazy fringe individuals, but the people who are rationalist reductionalists that are using evidence to then challenge traditional.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not quite interested in providing a platform for
half homeopathy, like for instance, that is just going to end up fucking damaging people. Do you know that kind of way?
Well, yeah, you wouldn't want someone like Gwyneth Paltrow coming on here to talk about that.
Was me trying to say Gwyneth Paltrow without saying Gwyneth Paltrow. But yeah, Jesus, yeah, absolutely not, no way. But like Terence McKenna was anti-science in that regard as well. Like he was scientific, obviously, but I mean,
he was anti-establishment, and I think that is something that is one of the characteristics and traits that will hold true of the vast majority of the guests that we will have. They will in some way want to challenge the status quo. Their theories, their ideas, or their concepts will in some way be juxtaposed to that of societies, because frankly, that's why we'll often find them interesting and want to give them that platform.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, look, I still am up for talking to anybody about anything, really, to be quite honest about it. I want
some prohibitionists. I want some hardcore,
they're fucking,
adamant prohibitionists.
They're shitty arses, man. Scaredy cats. You know what I mean? I mean, it's as I was saying to Simpa before we started this. They're predominantly in a health orientated profession. That kind of way. They have doctorates or whatever the fucking abbreviations or letters are after the fucking names or whatever. And they know for a fact that there's no grounds for their opinionated stance, and that's what it is. It's a selective stance that they have chosen to make.
It is a selective stance because they use selective evidence to back up their claims.
Exactly my point. So here's the thing, though. If you're a health professional and you're taking a selective stance, right, and ignoring the actual global results, say, for instance, then you're a fucking hypocrite. You are a fucking hypocrite. You are supposed to be well informed about all of this to a point where you can fully understand every part of what you're saying is supposed, cannabis dependency, say, for instance, right? Yeah. So just to finish off my point here, what I'm basically trying to say is, like, the only full way that you can, not morally, but down to your core, in its purest form, be a true health professional and is to firstly bring every sort of substance of that you might think that has negative attributes into your sort of into your control. That's a really bad way of putting it. I'm sure you can say it a lot better than I can. But you bring it in, you control it. You control it, you learn about it, then you start talking about, you know, application and use and stuff like that. And sorry, fuck.
Yeah.
But just that alone, right? So maintaining that selective mental process is showing you for your hypocritical self. Really, really is. And that's why they're not going to come onto this fucking show, mate. Do you know that kind of way?
Well, there are some that obviously will be blinded by their own ego to a point they won't see the fallacy within it. And I think, unfortunately, most of them are. It's what do we always say? Everyone is the hero of their own narrative. Everyone is their own protagonist. They are the good guy. So in their story, in their head, they're protecting people from the evils of cannabis. But then there's an interesting parallel to be drawn for, say, what about the medical professionals that were committing to chemical castration of homosexual men in this country? At that point, they'll have had a moral opinion on homosexuality, it being then backed up by society, and they then choose to then carry out those procedures, knowing the consequences of this. And so there's then precedent for this. It'll then go back to the way then we dealt with kids when there was a paradigm of children don't feel pain. There's still a concept that women feel less pain than men pervading medicine. The same with certain races and other ethnicities, that their pain scales are different dependent on their genetic makeup, which is fucking absurd, really, when you look at it. But it just shows the underlying crossover of individual moralizing and application of their profession. So I think that's always been there and will always continue to be there. I think that it needs to get away from specialists making these decisions. This is one of the things that Mike Barnes has called for recently in a report that he's put together through Maple Tree Consultants, which is the consulting company that he founded. And they're basically stating that, you know, we need to get to NHS prescriptions and GPs should be prescribing, because then the GPs know the individual patients. They're the ones that are most likely to have that end reaction to them, whereas the specialist will see them after they've been going up through the system, and they'll go and they look at one very nuanced, specific thing within the remit of their knowledge, and they then make a decision based on that. If we're going to leave it for them motherfuckers to get on with cannabis and other currently illegal drugs, it's going to be a long goddamn time, because they only go with where their accredited body goes. They're only an expert in their field as long as they continue to toe the party line on what their field is. Indeed. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
On consensus. So if they then suddenly were radical, look at what happened. There was a guy in London at I can't remember the name of the clinic, but he's basically been reprimanded because he was prescribing cannabinoids to children. Okay. And because he was doing it against the advice, and then they've kind of tried to hang him in the media and whatever else, when actually he's then gone, no, I've looked at the efficacy and the evidence. I've then prescribed it, seen benefits. You're only coming at me because of your moralizing of I'm giving drugs to children. Do you know what I mean? That's the reasoning for it. So again, it shows the moralizing of this argument spilling over into all facets of our life, that it's a bullshit control narrative. It's a controlled, manufactured consent into a worldview we don't conform to.
Yeah, but not only that, right? So we had, so you posted up last week. Was it last week in Weed that you did the other day? Was it the other day or?
It'll be last week.
Well, anyway, I shared it the other day, and it was basically talking about the media. And the British media and stuff like that. When did you do that article?
It was an article I wrote that a couple of months ago, but the same articles I wrote it about have started recirculating online again, so that's why I shared it again.
Oh, right. But I shared it anyway because the previous day there was an actual piece done on BBC that had the word marijuana in it, and it's like, that is a fucking... We know that this is a racist term. We know that the war on drugs is a racist endeavor. We know this. And we have a national media perfectly happy to put that in a title. And there is no fucking... I don't see any drawbacks to that. I don't see any Ofcom complaints. I don't see anything like I mean, this has to happen. This has to change, because we're accepting the use of that term without any pushback. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, they're perpetuating this. They want to then bring the term marijuana or skunk or weed They need a word that doesn't mean medical cannabis. So their lovely hyphenated, polished legalese compound term sits on a nice pedestal and is untouched. That's clean and clinical and hygienic and homogenized and standardized, and that's done with good manufacturer practice, and that's all legal and nice. Everything else is dirty and illegal and dangerous street weed, and they have to keep and perpetuate that narrative. So that's what they're going to continue to try to do, is to further divide that difference between them.
But of course they're going to continue to do it. But I mean, are we in a position to push back against this sort of portrayal?
We have a mechanism, as you said. We can complain through Ofcom. We can,
but are we? Are we as a community, as are the people at home listening right now, irate at the fucking BBC for using a fucking racist term to undermine what they see as a positive in their life? Because if you are, we should genuinely start thinking about pushing back on this. Going, fuck you. I'm not happy. If you want to report it, use the fucking proper term. Use cannabis. Stop with your shit.
There needs to be a mechanism of collective action. Do you remember the BBC ended up creating that template about the Prince Philip coverage death? So people literally just had to enter the email. Someone out there who's got the time. Unfortunately, I really don't have the time to research how to do it and then to actually execute it. But if somebody listening, somebody who comes across this does have the opportunity to do so, or already does, exactly that, wherever we can find misreporting within papers and whatever else, if we can report them. I believe that actually Connor Prentice from the London Cannabis Film Festival, he mentioned something that they were doing something similar. So actually,
he does it.
Yeah, a coordinated thing, that if that could be done en masse, so it was then, say, a newsletter that was put out every week, and it was just like auto-generated buttons, put in your email here, and it just automatically signed complaints against those outlets.
Yes,
that would be incredible. That would be really practical.
What? That's quite clearly been set in my subliminal brain, and that's been placed there by Connor quite clearly, because that's what he was doing. Do you remember we talked about it on the show, and he was like, "Oh my god, fucking hell!"
What episode number was that?
You should see the fucking the rain out here at the moment. My god, it is like I can barely see out the window. It's just like.
Welcome to the Weather Podcast with your host Maca. Today you can't see out the window.
I'm tempted to pick this up and show it to you, but you're never going to see it through the fidelity. The LCFF, is it the LCFF or LCCFF? I can't remember the abbreviation.
LCFF. Yeah. There are so many abbreviations in my life. It is not even funny. It was episode 24, folks.
Yeah, so it was only a few ago. Very much worth checking out. The lads are absolutely lovely. But that's a great idea. Maybe we should talk to him again about this, because that's obviously been set in my fucking brain, and that's how I reacted to it. That's how I went, fuck you. I'm not having that. That's fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
Why isn't everybody in fucking uproar over this? Like, you know, that kind of way. That's something we could probably unify behind, but then it's very easy for them to automatically comply to that. To kind of go, okay, we'll just report it as cannabis, and then just remove any of the actual fervor from their fucking fight.
But if they do it, if it's still a victory, then it's still a move forward. This is the thing of it, is we're not in a sprint. We are very much in a very complex decathlon, and there are various races that require different skills and different attributes. That's a good way of putting it. And so the fight to end cannabis prohibition is going to require the athletes that are best at all of the individual pursuits. And if we do not unify them, if we do not bring them together, and then we do not all have the common goal of doing them consecutively, then there will be no consistency within the message. And the vast majority of people, you've got to remember, in this country are, weed is weed. It's illegal because it's bad because it's illegal. They don't ever question beyond that until something like it's on Coronation Street. And even then they're kind of going, well, medical cannabis is good, that skunk stuff bad. And when I smell it, that must be skunk. You know, when all these old people that are getting better off cannabis, they're on medical cannabis. Even if they're getting it illegally, they're getting that illegal medical cannabis. Do you know what I mean? They're creating that such bullshit compartmentalizing within people's fucking brains. They're controlling that narrative. Whereas this mechanism, by any of the work that I produce or create, is exactly that. It's to try and challenge that paradigm. It's to go, no, don't accept, don't be spoon-fed. I mean, I've just released an article for Weed... submitted an article to Weed World for their next issue. And basically in that, I'm saying that we shouldn't be gaslighted into believing that hemp was ever a goddamn thing. If you look at the genetics, if you look at the phytomorphology of this goddamn plant in the taxonomology, I can't even say it, of this plant, there is hemp, there is Cannabis ruderatus, Cannabis sativa, Cannabis indica under the genus Cannabis sativa L. Hemp was created by consecutive generations of people perpetuating the idea that it fucking exists. They took the old English word and they applied it to arbitrary low THC levels of cannabis. It's then modified and gone through since to become this whole thing. They're just going to do the same goddamn thing with medical cannabis. So you've got people that are quite happily going, yeah, hemp can save the planet, but people should be in prison for smoking that cannabis stuff. Those gangs dealing cannabis, they should be in prison because the disconnect is that fucking large. And the same is happening with medical cannabis and cannabis. All cannabis is therapeutic and can ergo therefore be medical. Yet medical cannabis is designed to be very specific, to be used for relief of certain symptomology in certain circumstances.
It sounds like a vague puke, what you've just said right there. It did.
Sort of most things I say.
No, because I'm talking about the wording, not the point that you're making. Do you know that kind of way? It's like a certain set of circumstances at a certain time or whatever, and it's just like vague puke, vague puke, vague puke. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. I mean, we still run the risk of causing more sort of polarization by forcefully correcting or pulling people for now out of date terminology, such as I've seen it the other day. It's like somebody was still banging on about indica and sativa and whatnot. And it's fine. It's fine that for me that's fine, as long as they're coming from a place of eventually getting to that point of accuracy. But I'd be very cautious about needlessly polarizing somebody into a negative frame of mind or a destructive frame of mind by attacking their current knowledge. Do you know what I mean? We have to obviously update people. Of course we fucking do. Of course we do. Yeah. But sorry, go ahead.
No, you're correct. You're correct entirely. We shouldn't do it as an act of aggression, as an attack. It should be done as a sort of a quiet intervention and challenge to somebody's belief, because ultimately that's what it is. This idea of medical cannabis and hemp currently exists as a belief. They are created now into law to be defined as certain things. So medical cannabis is defined as a cannabis-based medicinal product designed for human consumption under the wording in the 2001 misuse of drugs regulations in the UK. And then from that, they are trying to then create this own thing on an island. And then they're creating restrictions through regulation for production, for distribution, for production of any sort of formulations. They're then patenting all the processes along this to streamline and define that as one separate entity. So anything that doesn't fit into that channel is a criminal product. And then what they've done now is they've come along and gone, okay, CBD and hemp. And then so they're making that a nice, defined, clean little channel. So there's two separate entities. Anything else that's left is still then just a criminal marketplace. And so what they've done is the people who've wanted to transition out of this pool, they've either gone, okay, I go get a prescription. I'm now not a criminal. I'm a medical cannabis patient. And whether they espouse that or not, or whether they realize it or not, they are propping up that monolith. And the same is true then of these brands that go, oh no, our product contains CBD, not THC. THC is the one that's addictive and that causes psychosis. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or the companies that go, our products are hemp derived.
Okay. So
if it's a non-cannabinoid thing and you're deriving it from hemp, it's cannabis. All of it is cannabis.
Yeah.
There is no escaping. They're just trying to obfuscate it to avoid the negative connotation of cannabis.
Yeah.
So you've got some health and beauty brands will put a nice little weed leaf on there, and then on the back say some of them are actually good, and it'll say cannabis sativa L seed oil. Some will say hemp seed oil.
Yeah.
And some will then say contains CBD and no breakdown of it. It's just very loose regulations on any of the packaging, but whether they're profiting from it. So they're going, oh, cannabis, it's the new thing. It does everything. So the end consumer's going, all right, I'll try that. And they're profiting while then from the limited system without then challenging that system. The same is true of the medical cannabis establishment. The same is true of the hemp industry. Now look at what's happened. So Pleasant Lands was launched within 2 days of this Mike Barnes report. and the announcement of the Cannabis Industry Council. And both of them, in fact, all of them are going towards trying to get 1% THC, reform the licensing system in the UK, allow for extraction from flowers, and look to prescribe, at least Barnes's crew are looking at prescribing the NHS. So they're looking to then create an entire industry to then prop that up. So then there'll be your medical cannabis is then only hemp derived cannabis, or it's then pharmaceutical cannabis. And then you've got the hemp industry, which is then going to be under that 1%. So they'll have a large share of cultivars to be able to play with and be able to produce a wide spectrum of products. But then everybody else remains criminal until they've then ring fenced and then start building their next pillar of club model of distribution of a centralized, franchisable conglomerate.
So how do we speed this up? Because
education challenge, exactly what we were just talking about.
No, as in, like, this is devil's advocate thing, and this is being fucking flippant as balls, right? They are going to give it to us in some way, shape, or form. How can we speed it up so we can know what the fucking animal is that we need to fight once we actually get around to fucking unifying? Do you know what I mean? It's like, and I agree with you. I mean, this is exactly what's happening. The architecture is being put in place to ring fence and box off everything, you know, and maximize profits in every way, shape, or form, and then obviously give us the 45. I said 45 this week. The Canadian laws-esque kind of deal, right? Okay, grand. If that's what's coming, fine, let's get on with it so that we can let's start fucking dismantling the bastard thing, because I'm fucking tired of waiting. I just want to start fighting against it now. Do you know that kind of way? I want us to all just kind of go, okay, some people have reprieve. This is actual bullshit. We've been pontificating for 29 fucking episodes about the architecture that's been put in place. Do you know that kind of way? Well, let's get a fucking pickaxe and start fucking picking at it, the bastard thing. You know that kind of way? Because well, okay, so it was sort of a loaded question, and the reason I sort of bring that devil's advocacy bit up, it sounds very defeatist and non-ideal, right? But the point I'm making was is there's a certain bit of shock value to that. The point really I'm trying to make is, well, how do we speed any of this up in any regard? We've got PCCC elections and MP elections coming up very fucking soon. It'll have already happened. It'll have already happened by the time this goes out. So we'll probably fucking put up a reminder or whatever. But hopefully the message will have come across, and people will really start to vote in that regard. Will it make any difference? I'm not sure. I hope I'm wrong on that regard. But here's the thing, right? Say theoretically you're in a district where you've got 4 candidates and one of them is only there and only is interested in medical application, and everybody else can go fuck themselves. You can reluctantly vote for that person and still hold your fucking your head high and proud, right? Because it does move cannabis as a whole, even though it's subcategorized unnecessarily and boxed off. It does move it into a more acceptable social zeitgeist, and I'm talking about the people that are essentially defending the police. The people on Facebook posts, nice job winning it. They believe right down in their heart and soul that that's what they should be doing. Do you know that kind of way? That's where they are. But we get more of that, then we can push it forward. Is it ideal? Is it something personally that I'm happy about? Not really. Do you know that kind of way? But I'm so fucking tired of waiting, man, and I don't really want to be deflated to a point where I just back the fuck off and just go, do you know what? Fuck all ye in the politest way possible. Have your fucking medical cannabis. I'm just going to continue doing what I'm fucking doing. Obviously, I'm not going to do that, but you can see why the frustration for, say, high-level activists. We've had a few of them on here that have been completely deflated by the entirety of the process. So it is a thing. Anyway, I'm just spouting shite now. These are just alternative thoughts. These aren't necessarily what I expect, not what I aspire to achieve. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
I get you. I get
Yeah.
you. So there's a few things to sort of unpack there, I guess. As always, it's good to get a very full box of gifts. Thank you. Um, so yeah, I think the first question, I suppose, what we can do to accelerate it. There isn't really much. They've sewn up most of the entry points to the industry that they've created now. The FSA regulations and their takeover has obliterated quite a lot of previously existing CBD companies, hemp companies, etc. With what is coming with the war between the ACI and the CMC, that is the Association for the Cannabinoid Industry, and the Center for Medical Cannabis, which is the sort of Steve Moore, Paul Birch monolith, and the sort of Mike Barnes with leading the new Cannabis Industry Council, the CIC. So the victor of this war will tell us what it's going to look like, because as I've said, they've built pillar one, which is medical. They're about 3/4 of the way through finalizing this whole hemp thing, which then part with the CBD. Then there's going to be a look to allow for holistics and for wellness, and then be able to make wellness claims. So there'll then be a sort of sub-therapeutics. So you'll see them as same way you see vitamins and minerals, that kind of thing. So you'll see them as additives into other things, but not regulated as medicines. Then they'll look to us, because once they've sewn all that up, the only reason you'd be going to a drug den is because you like the drug den culture and you want to be a drug den person. I mean, there's already talks and rumors in the cannabis club scene within the UK that there's movements for them to try to make medical cannabis clubs, for them to establish these hubs that you become a member because you've got a prescription.
Okay.
So then, yeah, or then it's a system of already you've got a can card, so then you can go into a can card club. Yeah. I'm not saying that it's can card that we operate in that. I'm throwing that together for hyperbole. You know what I'm saying? But it's a system of registered database for you to be able to gain access when others can't. Whereas the point of us fighting for the clubs is to create a system where everybody over 18 can gain access and utilize cannabis as they see fit.
Yeah, no, without a doubt, and that is obviously something that I want to push forward 100%. But obviously that has to come from a national push, a unified push. It has to, or else it's never ever going to be taken seriously.
Yeah. So the thing we can do to accelerate is the same thing I've been screaming about for the past year, is just try to unify. But unfortunately, we're watching these unification efforts of organizations like the Cannabis Industry Council that are not then approaching WTU, Seed Our Future, any of the clubs or community organizations, unfortunately. But their remit, when you read their language on their website, even though they've called themselves the Cannabis Industry Council, they represent just medical cannabis and hemp. That's literally the wording of it. Medical cannabis and hemp. There is no cannabis. They're not representing the 5 million fucking consumers. They're trying to aim for that 1.2 million that they've estimated are medical consumers. They're the ones they want on repeat prescriptions. They want the repeat service of. They want to get them on a nice little cash flow system.
Well, it's not unification then. It's not unification then. It's fucking bullshit.
No, again, it's just they're all just trying to create these clinical systems so that people can then access this. For all their argument, it's still just access. The access is fucking there. So that what they're doing is they're meaning the access for the middle class, for the people who weren't willing to break the law. That's what they're fucking actually meaning. So the people who sit and watch all these idiots that get together at Hyde Park and smoke together, that wouldn't break the law to do that. The people that would rather let a relative die because they'd rather they were legally dead than they were illegally alive.
Yeah.
That's the fucking demographic they're going for, because they are the middle class. They vote, they support Tory ideology. They want to see a perpetuation of neoliberalistic capitalism. They don't want to see the truth, which is what we've talked about many times before, that cannabis is a capitalist resource with a socialist agenda. That the more you perpetuate it through a capitalist endeavor, the harder you try to monetize it, the better your society becomes as a consequence of this. But then it will eventually lead to the detriment and downfall of that capitalist system. And I'm not saying a communist world. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not advocating any of these binary old concepts. What I'm saying is that an option to live outside of that manufactured system, that's what cannabis gives us. The opportunity to truly be self-sufficient. If you don't have to apply for license, if you can get a community of people together that then want to cultivate and trade this plant freely, they can then live off that grid of a system. They can then pay whatever minimal taxes they're forced to do, but they can live in their own isolated communities, create their own communities.
Yeah, and I don't think that that's going to have that much of a detrimental effect, because, you know, people people are inherently lazy. I'm lazy. You know, I'm productive, but I'm lazy. Do you know that kind of way? I know that sounds weird, but it's true. You know, not everybody brews their own beer because, you know, you can fucking do that. You can make some fucking glorious home brews. I've seen people that have done it, and they're quite happy they'll never ever drink from a brewery again. That's fine, but I don't, as I've said previously on a previous episode, I don't see anybody sweating fucking Budweiser. Like, you know what I mean? It's fucking, they're not worried, man. They're not worried about you. So here, in the end of the day, like, you know.
But these companies are, though. They are worried about home grow, because it's not just home grow they're worried about. They're worried about collectives. They're worried about clubs. They're worried about organizations of 200, 2,000 people getting together, growing a handful of plants each, and having that trade and that ability for class mobility. That's the thing that all of this comes down to. We can talk about racism, we can talk about everything else as well. But the thing that permeates most of this is classism. Well, yeah. It's entirely about keeping these people in their place. If you look at the established thousands of cannabis brands, of organized companies, of people that are trying to create ethos, that are trying to create. Oh, it's only there because I'm smoking.
I know it's there, but
it's
also not a good example.
but you know what I mean? No, but yeah. The same exists in all. Look at the vaporization industry now. You go into your average vape shop and look at the spectrum of advertising and what they're allowed to get away with and what they can do. You then go and look at the same with alcohol. You look at the names and you look at the promotional campaigns and the way they go about it. Yeah. The same should be free and true of cannabis.
Of course.
But there are entrepreneurs in this country, thousands of them, that are left as criminals, that then when they get together are suddenly organized gangs. Do you know what I mean? That are perfecting genetics, that are working on putting on cups and events, and that are real community leaders and champions, that then when they make some fucking money, they pay it forward to charities. You know what I mean? They make sure that the people that work under them, that grow for them, make a fair fucking wage and take a percentage of that crop.
Yeah.
There are people that are doing this right, that are locked out of this industry because of the people stood high upon those monoliths that we discussed before, are judging them. They're going, look at all these guys down here and their criminality. We're forced into being criminals. Whereas if we were afforded the same opportunity as them, we would be champions. We would be on the fucking covers of magazines. We would be rebuilding our communities as we see fit. We would be influencing politics and future policies.
Can't really have a northerner and an Irishman as the champions, can you?
But I mean, as in terms of those that understand that it's criminalized but still choose to break that fucking law. Yeah. It's for me, it's the sense that it's not something I'll do out of shame or I'll hide it. Clearly, obviously not. But it's almost like it's a moral obligation and a duty to violate openly this ridiculous fucking law for the many that can't. For the people that have to sit at home and smoke and then spray the fucking thing, they have to keep all the windows shut and that they can't go anywhere or interact with anybody because of fear of the consequences of getting caught or getting labeled as a cannabis consumer.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why I always champion the people that bravely do stand up and are able to provide voice to the voiceless, that are able to do things like we are trying to do here, create platforms and spaces for people to have the conversations, to get those narratives out there and to show that commonality. So whether you are a man from Scotland fighting for your kid, or whether you are a fucking a comedian, legendary comedian and actor, or you're a doctor, an academic, or a former police officer, or whoever, you can all express and see that same underlying commonality, that this is fucking wrong. Prohibition is wrong. And that's what's going to get us there. That truth, that eternal burning truth will get us there. They will build these monoliths. They will build their industry. They will extract their trillions from the global economy. They will change global law. They will create new conventions and new social constructs and economic systems. But that truth will still burn. We will still rebel. We will still fight. And we will still go, fuck you. You are wrong. Until we are free to grow this plant and utilize every facet of it for whatever endeavor that we choose, we are not free. And there's enough of us around the world that will see that and will fight that. And no matter how many new laws they create, no matter what regulations and rules they put in place to restrict us, we will find a way to rebel against that. It's within our nature. There are those that see that hold that truth, and it burns them up if they do not do this thing like I do, that we do, get on a fucking platform every week and go, oh, it's still happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's still illegal.
Yeah. This week's update: cannabis still illegal. You're still a criminal and a bad guy.
That's it. 5 sec. We should just do this for our 5-second podcast. We'd have thousands of fucking views every week. 5 seconds.
Still illegal.
It's still illegal. It's shit. See you next week.
Oh,
Yeah, though the waiting is the worst part for sure. I'm patient mostly, but this kind of just faffing around. It's bollocks. Just going
it's
back to what I was saying about the voting and stuff like that, and the unification. So what I've seen obviously is the likes of See the Future and Access Canada obviously coming together as and pushing an awful lot of the information. Sorry, not pushing it, but collecting it in a place so it's freely accessible to people is a fucking good start, isn't it? Do you know that kind of way? Now, can we have every other fucking organization do the same thing, please? Can we build our own fucking monoliths to counteract the other monoliths? Does that be great? It's an awful lot easier to fight somebody. You know what I mean? When you're at the same level, think about gladiators. Everybody's seen fucking gladiators at the same fucking on a Saturday afternoon. You remember that duel thing? Both of you are standing on the fucking plinths, fucking bashing the shit out of it. But if you're on the bottom,
you're showing your age here.
I know, right? Hey, they brought it back with Ian Wright. You remember that a couple of years ago? But anyway, the point was fucking. Do you know what I mean? You're never. You can swing all you want from the mats, but you're never gonna hit the fella that's on the fucking up top on the plinth. You know what I mean? But if we actually build our plinth.
Well, this is. I mean, you said there, why don't we build our own monoliths? I suppose we wouldn't. We would build bridges
from that top monolith to other interconnected, self-built monoliths to counteract the.
Well, no, it's analogous to then if you say the pieces that build up the monolith are individual components, they can be applied to anything. So we can either create a township from this, or we can create a tower that is a monument, a testament to this new Prohibition 2.0 era that we find ourselves in. Or we can use the many facets of this technologically, graphene, there's hempcrete, etc. Plastics replacing petroleum. They could give us that brighter opportunity. They could give us that better fucking tomorrow. But we're still stuck here moralizing over this bullshit, because for the same reason this lie was perpetuated and created to control people is still the same reason it's perpetuated today. But it's exactly what we brought up with Tommy Chong, that it's the co-opting of this. They've gone from going, let's eradicate this thing, fight them and destroy them, to going, let's just fucking sell them the shit and restrict it through laws and price. And that's kind of the point that we're at now. So I think that we haven't got long to wait before this becomes a thing. Look at the TGRR, fucking new body that was set up by the British government. This is to look into new novel technologies. Basically, when you read the wording of this is to install cannabis technologies, new research and development of patented products for the UK. And that's what they're going to be looking to do. So as part of that, they're going to have to address these imbalances in the legislation. The fact that the ACI CMC war versus the now CIC, as it were, the collective of anyone that basically isn't in that group, they're both fighting for the same thing, hemp at 1%. So that's what's going to be the fucking outcome basically here. They want it, they're going to get it. It's just a case of which one of them wins the nuance of the legislation. Ultimately, the CIC is the better horse to back here, because at least then you're getting prescriptions on the NHS. Once we get prescriptions on the NHS and they detangle all of that red tape and they can remove the impediment of bureaucracy, we can then start towards having a conversation of going, wait a minute, why the fuck are we buying this shit? Why are we not growing it? As soon as the NHS starts having that goddamn conversation, we will get somewhere. Screw us propping up companies like Tilray and Aurora and Bedrocan and all of these other companies that are popping up all over the world, and we're importing their shit. We're importing, now we're going to be looking and start importing cannabis from Africa, we're importing from North America, importing it from Israel, importing it from fucking Australia. Do you know what I mean? It's jokes. We still produce over 300 tons annually here in the UK, but none of it is solid, because it's probably is what it is. It's skunk. That's that dangerous skunk stuff. We can't sell that here.
It is, yeah. So you can't do that.
It's meant, but again, you think of then the impact of that on the environment, the socioeconomic consequence of that. Like, what the fuck are we doing here? You're missing the point massively. You're doing all of this just to prevent us from doing something with it.
Hold the phone there now. I used to believe in the whole socioeconomic angle, the propping up. Do you know what I mean? The whole, I think I said it on early doors of this fucking podcast. Whereas you can reinvest in communities and whatnot. Yeah, if the interest is there from a national perspective, but here's the thing: the obligation isn't there, which I've learned. Because obviously Do you know what I mean? When you print your own money as a country, do you know what I mean? Obviously, the only real concern is the international valuation. You know, that kind of way. And if it comes from that, I think that's all a fucking facade. To be quite honest about it, because when you're in uh, a global positional power such as the UK and other, you know, like the US and China and whatnot, um, there's only so much damage that can really be done. I think when you're fucking invading half the fucking world and got bases and missiles all over the fucking place, you can tell people that it devalues your fucking currency, but it probably really doesn't. Might do go up and down a fucking small bit, but in the end of the day, you can choose to fucking print more money. You can choose to do those things. The deficit is in an awful lot of the way is portrayed to us as an awful lot more serious than it fucking actually is.
Oh well, yeah, it's a metric of fear. It's something that they can bring about and then go, oh, look at this thing, and it's a nice little political football for them to use.
Well, it is because they shat on fucking Jeremy Corbyn for it. Where's your magic money tree? Where is all of this? Well, do you know what I mean? Where do you think the fucking money has come from to bail people out of the recession? Or, you know, Rishi Sunak with his red fucking case, holding it fucking proudly in front of people like he's actually done fucking anything. Oh, we've borrowed. You've borrowed from yourself. That's the end of the fucking day. And here's the other thing. As you've rightly said, Simpa, to draw you into fucking this, it is protecting our economy. The 1% economy. These are the people that are worried about the overproduction of money. That's the only fucking people that are actually worried about it. Think about it. Do you know what I mean? If people are in destitute areas or poverty-driven areas, and you can print money to actually send it up the fucking creek to sort those people, the people that the direct consequence that comes from that isn't a national one. It is a 1% problem. It's not anybody else's.
Well, I get your sentiment, and I appreciate it greatly. Technically, if you look at it, the way that the banking system works, it's fractionated banking and a globalized system. It's owned by the IMF, the International Monetary Fund. So effectively, countries borrow from the fund. The countries now, especially since 2008, the vast majority of them are registered as individual corporations. Mm-hmm. So they have shareholders, etc. There's whole mechanisms of entire corruption that we don't have the opportunity to get into at this point. The other side of it is then, say, let's look at Germany or the Americans during the Great Depression, or Germany in the point of hyperinflation between the wars. So it got to the point of when you print a currency, if you then create more of a currency, if you don't have a currency dump, you devalue the merit of that. Then you ended up with a point of literally like fucking shoeboxes and wheelbarrows of shit to go buy a singular item.
Hold on a second. We're talking about two. That's a semi out of date application, though. Do you know what I mean? Because what we're talking about nowadays is a euro. We're talking about a common currency that is shared by the European countries. We're not talking about every country that has individualized currency here.
Yeah, but we're obviously not signed up to it. But then there's also the issue of the individual banks within individual countries signed into common currencies. They have the mechanism to control their own base inflation. Obviously, there are certain mechanisms held by the union, as we saw with Greece, for example, that makes them obligate to certain minimums around taxation and certain fiscal with an F structure. But ultimately, they do still have enough control to be able to offset the consequence of, I suppose, the limits of their economy in scale to the larger economy. Mm-hmm. Whereas that doesn't then happen from the countries to the larger one. They're still left in isolate. This is why blockchain and all these cryptocurrencies and things like this are scary to the system. This is why they're looking to move to a cashless, centralized control currency, because then they can deal with the metrics of inflation. So they want to control this better. At least that's their public rationale to it. But to get back to sort of the point of the banking, they can't really. They can't appease or relieve the poverty of those most vulnerable in need, because it's a metric scale. If you bring these people up, you push them up. So the only way to bring these up is to cap the top. You have to bring them together. And then what happened with that is you then ended up with the various versions of communism that spread across fucking continental Europe, where a lot of bad shit fucking happened because they couldn't figure out the mechanism to do it. And then the greed of
So if you make a decision to bring up people that are in poverty-driven areas and destitute areas, how does the 1% go up as well?
Well, under the system as it goes, because then where does they spend their money? So if we did it as a system now, the system is whole here. All of a sudden, you dump, and then you give every fucking person who has an income less than 12 grand, 10 grand, just randomly. Where does that fucking money go? They don't save it. They don't invest it. The vast majority of them, they have needs. So they'll immediately then buy brands. They'll buy goods. They'll procure services.
Yeah.
That then through a system goes up to the billionaires.
I don't know. That sounds really like
that's like pump up. That's pump up economics rather than trickle down.
Yeah, I don't know.
But it's true. It's true.
That sounds like the arguments that are used against UBI, say for instance. We can't do that because people will just be lazy and there'll be no fucking jobs. It's the same sort of mentality. I'm not sure that people once people get out
provable.
Yeah, but hold on a second. Is it provable in?
Yeah, we've just seen it last year. Think about it. Think of the sheer amount of fucking the billionaires, how much money they made, Jeff Bezos and other people, how much their personal wealth went up.
I've seen that.
Look at the same metric. There is a fucking metric. I don't know if we can get it up somewhere. I've lost access to my other screen up here. Where is it? There is a metric that was created. I don't know, I've lost it on there. That showed that basically the exact same amount of money that was made by billionaires during the pandemic was the exact amount of money that was extrapolated from the poor.
But at the start, but hold on a second. There was from the initial application, there was no choice made to tackle destitution and poverty as the forefront of fucking financial redistribution. Do you see what I'm trying to say? It's like it's all well and good saying, yeah, of course, the people, the growth from the 1% was reflective from being fed in through what's been spent by the 99%. Surely that's fine, but that's just a commentary on existing architecture. Surely, I'm not entirely sure.
So what I'm saying is, I think we may have slightly missed points. What I'm saying is, we can't dump the cash into the current system because it's analogous. If you then say use that trickle down the water analogy, it pools gravitationally because of the lean of the system. Yeah, that money pools into their 1%.
Oh, okay, fine.
Yeah, do you know what I'm saying? So the only way you address it, you have to address that apparatus before you dump anything in. Otherwise, you're just going to be pissing it through the fucking wall. It's like you're going, we need to clean up the spill from the bath without filling the hole.
I see where your point is coming from in that regard. Sure.
Yeah. Sorry, I was going to say, so this is where I think you were going to go on to of the arguments against universal basic income, of that it will disempower individuals.
Yeah, it's nonsense.
It's entirely nonsense. If then your system is predicated on the fear of starvation for people to survive, there's something inherently seriously fucked up with that system, because that's what everything works on, is a threat of state-imposed violence. You park wrong, you get a parking fine. They're going to double that fine if you don't attend to it. Triple that fine. Yeah. They then put out a warrant for you to come to fucking court. You then refuse. What do? They put hands on you. They take you. You resist. You physically resisted. They're going to charge you with a affray or assault. Yeah, boom. And then they're going to look. And then you're going to end up locked in a cage because you refuse to pay a fine because they arbitrarily painted a line somewhere on the floor.
Yeah, you can see.
So that mechanism of state enforced. I can see that two sides of this with the universal basic income idea. One is that we shouldn't give that fucking apparatus that control, because then their control of going, if you don't conform, we remove your universal basic income. The fear there is that then if people don't have another passive income stream or another ability to make an income that isn't subsistent on the government, that means they put more people onto that government teat. And then if at the whim of the government, or if it changes because of the elections and the cycles and the whims of culture they could then all of a sudden go, well, we'll end this system. And rather than having 1.7 billion or whatever million on benefits, you've got 66 million people that rely on you as their primary source of income. So I see that argument. But the other side of it is, if we figure out a way to provide economically for the individuals that there is no base level, that if you fall under an arbitrary number, which is defined as poverty, like actual poverty, is in you can't afford to eat 2 to 3 times a day, you can't pay your base average costs of energy, etc., calculated on something actually measurable, not just some dickhead on the back of an envelope going, that looks about right. Do you know what I mean? Something like that. A system that is then regulated and controlled like that, that then, in a culture that then incentivizes people to utilize that money, whether they buy assets, gold, whether they buy cryptocurrency, whether they invest in physical stocks, whether they then open other businesses, they establish their own trades or whatever it is that they then do as another form of income. That's what it should be. It shouldn't be then just a handout of a system that then perpetually goes every month, here you go, here's some coin, without there then being some form of an incentivization mechanism. And it's not for the idea that people are lazy and will do nothing. If you allow people in a shit situation to eat and sleep well for a fucking week, watch their mental health, watch their worldview change, the bitterness, the anger, the hatred, everything. It disappears in them. The hope arises.
Of course.
The motivation to go out and to be a decent person and to participate in it actively in society arises.
Yeah.
So the people that are diminishing that and saying that they'll just become druggies and layabouts are fucking morons. Because then again, even if they chose to fucking do that, that then points towards an underlying trauma or an underlying maladaptation towards society that can be dealt with or at least addressed through therapy. And even after that point, if they choose to live that way, fuck it. In my world, give them that goddamn
fucking
money in life, because they deserve to live it.
And do you know what? Here's the thing. I have news for you, right? It genuinely, you're absolutely fucking spot the fuck on. Because here's the thing. You take away everything that would say cause you, not cause you, but that would accumulate to you being in that mental state where you do not want to fucking do anything. You don't, you know what I mean? You just want to watch the fucking telly and eat and go to sleep, because that's the only fucking thing that's actually interesting to you at that point, right? You take away all of that, and guess what happens if people are in increased health, increased, fucking mental space? You get bored. You get bored of sitting at the fucking home doing fucking nothing. Oh, I don't have to worry about, my health. I don't have to worry about any of these things. And I've got nothing to do. And there's trash on telly. Guess what happens? Yeah. People learn, people build, people progress, people grow.
It starts so small. And it literally starts with then them kind of, I know, I'm going to tidy up here. I haven't tidied up in a bit. I might refresh with the decorating. And to go through each of these progressive things that is analogous to exercising an atrophied muscle. This idea of self-care, this idea of improving your own environment, of actually wanting to be an active participant in your own life. Far too many of us have been pacified and placated into a backseat role in our own existence. And we're going, well, I was born into this and this is who I am. And we self-perpetuate a narrative of isolation. Whereas if you actually give people an opportunity to feel just the baseline of not hungry, of not scared that their home is going to be taken off them if they don't work for a week, that their children are not going to starve if they're sick for a fucking 2 days and they'll lose their job. If you give people security, actual security, you will be fucking amazed by what they can achieve. Yeah. Every one of us, every single person, anyone listening or watching this has passed on the street, anyone you've ever interacted with or encountered in your own life, no matter how shit of a person or how whatever you think of them or your judgments that you push onto them, they have merit, they have worth, and they have value, and they have something to give this life, whether it's just in a small form to another in a conversation, or whether it's on the grandest gesture to produce the next great novel, the next great film, the next great cultural revolution or technological advancement. Every one of us has that merit. I truly believe that everyone has something within them that is a reason as to why we're here. I don't believe in fate. I don't believe in a deterministic universe per se, nor do I believe in a spiritualist sort of God-defined and created universe either. But I happen to believe that it's an enormous fucking consequence that we're all fucking here and we're all able to talk to each other and interact and kind of go, do you see how crazy this shit is? That to me is so fucking profound, so goddamn profound. And that is, we don't need to tattoo it on our foreheads, but it needs to be so prevalent in society. It needs to be one of those things that we're aware of, that this just being here is wow. And again, that revelatory experience, that recognition and that realization can happen when you de-stress people that are not then constantly worried about where their next goddamn meal's coming from. Yeah. Not going, shit, if I miss this bus, you know what I mean? I've lived it before I had a car. It was literally like, if I miss this bus, I could get fired. And then the bus driver is sick, customers, so they cancel the route, or there's some other event beyond your control, and you fucking lose a job. you lose that opportunity, and then you're cast into this thing of going, oh well, I've got to go now and grovel to the system and get benefits, and then where the TV that has previously entertained you is now calling you a scourge and saying that you're a scrounger, and that you're trying to game a system. You know what I mean? You wonder all of these negative images and all of these negative connotations and implications of being unemployed is bombarded onto you, that then when you get cast onto this, you wonder why you get stuck in that cycle. So then you can easily become stuck in that, because it's so hard to get out of that fucking cycle. They give you just enough to get by, but then the jobs that they'll give you as an opportunity to get out of it don't give you just enough to incentivize you to get off.
They can be traps.
They create the fucking trap, and then they point at you and go, "You fucking lazy fuck.
Yeah.
You should work now 36 hours to have £10 more than you do sat on your ass. And that's your fault."
And just to tie it back up to kind of go, "Oh, we can't print more money. We'll devalue our currency. Devalue it. Fucking redistribute it. Tear down whatever the fucking bullshit separation that allows this nonsense to stay to fucking proliferate." And I'll tell you what, if you're worried about international trade, well, fucking good. Start rethinking about nationalizing everything, energy, transport, fucking everything, and you won't be worried about devaluating your currency then, will you? Do you see what I mean? It's that fucking bullshit argument, man. Sorry, I'm really hot about it.
No, but it's true though, because then that's exactly the metric by which they are worried most for. That was a terrible sentence. International.
You're talking to me.
International trade is the main metric by which they are measuring the success of a currency at this point, because especially the UK, we rely heavily on export. And we import for our own domestic consumption, but export for our own actual wealth development. A lot of it was through financial trade and through moving things through the City of London. That is starting to really get into fucking trouble post-Brexit. Same with this trade. I mean, you've then got the conservatives and right-wing building this idea of nationalizing anything is a terrible fucking idea. It's socialist. When actually it's not. It's nationalist, but not social nationalist like the Nazis. It's a different kind of fucking idea altogether. It's the idea that it's for the better benefit of all of the people in this country. We should own our own domestic energy grid.
Exactly.
We should exactly that. And it starts with something like fucking cannabis, because then it can get us off petroleum. We are still subservient and sucking up on the teat of the Saudi royal family in order to. Sorry, I got something in my throat.
Is that from sucking on the teat of petite?
Yeah. It's timing. It's crude and sticky. But yeah, we can actually then take it back. And I'm not on about creating that nationalist that goes, no, we lock down the borders and Britain for British. I'm not on about that idea at all. But bullshit. if I am, and the people that think like me are ever to have pride in this country, it is if we then start to undertaking steps to right our wrongs of history, acknowledge them, and take steps to make a better fucking future where we're not exploiting the developing world, where we're not fucking creating these ridiculous systems of bureaucracy to deny people their basic right of consumption. You know, we can modify the way that we fucking approach this, and it is a new form of nationalism that isn't about racism, that isn't about tribalism, or that it is, but it's about an inclusive tribalism. That means that if you are here, we're going to fucking work to make sure you've got it as good as everyone has.
Yeah, exactly.
You've got the same fucking opportunity.
Hey, think about that, though. Think about that, right? The greatest... You often hear, like, fucking national... Like, I'm talking about, like... Not what we're talking about, nationalism, but, like... Nationalists, right? Going, the greatest country in the world. Great this, great that. Do you know what would be really... Any country would be great if there was no fucking poverty, if there was no homelessness, there was no fucking hunger, if you know, everybody had equal opportunity in terms of financial and education, you know, all of these things, right? Imagine an actual island where you rock up and everything is achievable to you. That's a good way of putting it, because you know what I mean. You're here, you'll survive, you won't fucking starve. But I'll tell you what, if you want to put in a small bit more effort, you will be fucking rewarded for that too.
Yeah, but
fucking sweet.
Yeah, this is another argument that you'll get from people that are against that kind of idea, is then go, nah, so you're saying that everyone should have the opportunity to do everything, even if they can't. And it's like, no, so it's not then about, it's not, but people take it to that logical fallacy. They like to extend that argument and be hyperbole about it until it ends up at a point of ridiculousness.
Of course, yeah.
And so, so they'll then state that, no, everybody's, and That's not true. The point
Achievable.
isn't about ensuring that everybody from every demographic is represented in every role. That's not what is true, because that's not then actually necessarily a representation of what is best for that role.
Yeah.
What is removing the impediments at the start. And the way you do that is exactly this. You just obliterate fucking poverty. You look at what the UK makes, not spends, makes from the arms trade, would end poverty in this country multitudes of times over.
Yeah.
Easy fuckingly.
Yeah.
But then it changes the social the zeitgeist, I suppose. Yeah, the cultural inclinations of the people. Because suddenly if they're all doing better and they're suddenly able to question shit, they've got time. Instead of grumbling and hunger and their brain capacity literally being lowered because they've worked a 9-hour shift and they're eating that one meal they can afford that fucking day. Of course they're going to sit and watch the stupid machine, the black fucking mirror, and absorb whatever stupid shit the mainstream channels are trying to pump out to them. So, you know what I mean? People are a victim to this shit.
Yeah, they are.
So the problem is that a lot of the people that are going to be shouting against this universal basic income are those people.
Yeah, I know.
They are the people that would benefit most.
They're unfortunately ill-informed and miseducated. That is the truth of it. Just because you're tired doesn't make it any less true. Do you know that kind of way? Yeah. Like, I get it. I'm tired too, but I'm still here making a fucking video. I'm trying. I carry with the stress of it all the fucking time. I deal with it in and out. You know that kind of way. I don't do these things because they're fucking easy. It goes down to fucking exercise, man. It really does. I fucking hate running. I fucking hate it. But I do it all the fucking time. People are, do you know what I mean? I like fucking David Goggins. You must know David Goggins, right? That American Navy SEAL who's just extremely mentally hardened and stuff like that.
Another guy.
But I mean, there's validity in his mentality too, because people will go, well, if you hate running, why do you do it? And he said, are you fucking joking? Like, seriously? I do it because it has fucking positive benefits. It makes me feel good afterwards. You know what I mean? It's and I do it because it's fucking hard. Do you know that kind of way? Because like, the easy road here is to be subservient, is to obey, is to put down the fucking glasses, man. Look it up. Do you know what I mean? Don't bother looking up at the billboard with the glasses on. Take them off. Get rid of them. Do you know that kind of way? It's like, and some people, they want to live like that, and that's fine. If that's the way you want to live, then great. Chances are you're probably in a comfortable position where it's not very immediate in terms of a concern for you. Do you know that kind of way? If that's where you are and that's you want to be late, just like anybody else that say would be on UBI or whatever, fine, you can do that. But for people like me and you, right? We stare at things that are difficult in the fucking face, and we do not give each other credit for it. Do you know what I mean? It's hard to be where you are, to put in so much fucking effort, to be as transparent as you are, for me to be here, and do you know what I mean? Fucking, I was road running there for a second. But you see where I'm coming from, like, do you know what I mean? Do you see the point I'm trying to make?
Yeah.
It's fucking, I don't know, man. I don't.
Yeah, but then you think of the damage that individuals like we can do in I think of, especially I suppose myself with my limited income, etc. The damage I could do with some money. You could
you could do to people that are fucking like maintaining the current zeitgeist, the current class of separation. You could do damage to those people for sure. But you wouldn't do damage to fucking me, say for instance.
No, that's exactly what I mean by damage to their economy, their system, to the idea of an inherent classist hierarchy. Do you know what I mean? That classism is perpetuated by finance. You are determined by your station in life, to use the old English parlance. And so when you meet somebody, we're all still ingrained to this. What do you do? Why do we ask this? Are we genuinely curious about what they fucking do? No. Majority of the time is we're using it to gauge them, to weigh them up and to see where they fit in correlation to us in an inbuilt classist system. Whether we're consciously aware or not of this, it's fucking so ingrained to us. And we have this system, and it isn't until you truly try and think about it that you go, oh yeah, and you look at the way that you class people, and you think of the unconscious biases and prejudices that you then project onto these people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's not just me at all. There are millions of me's everywhere. And everybody again has the potential to be fucking me. I am very lucky. I went through a very unique combination of fucked up education and removed it through mainstream society, I suppose, for most of my youth, and was raised in a very abusive and destructive way, and then had the opportunity to experience a lot of the good and the bad of drug culture firsthand. And that's arrived me at a point where I can speak of this from a certain basis of, I suppose, certainty and knowledge, you know what I mean? But everyone has that potential and ability to arrive at the same point through education, through insightful sort of reflection, to just really...
As well, yeah, but also coming outside your comfort zone, right? And I was guilty of this. Here's something for you, right? So I was guilty of this in the most inverse way. So I would pass things off, be very passive about sort of my emotional connection to any sort of decision. You know what I mean? Didn't necessarily need to go the way I wanted it to go or whatever. And then I wouldn't necessarily be disappointed by that or anything like that. And this is quite vague, I get it. But what I'm trying to say basically is there was a point where my level of acceptance in a sort of passive way, non-aggressive way, led me to be heavily depressed in recent times. And I actually had to pull myself out and listen to the likes of somebody like David Goggins and say, well, there's a reason why you're feeling like this, sure. And you could list out 100 different things, like, you know, a bereavement in the family, a fucking a bullshit treatment at work, say for instance, or you know, I've had I'm making these up. You know, I've had this toothache, and you know, my stomach is sick, and I'm tired. I'm not sleeping very well, and you know, fucking, I'm worried about money. I'm worried about X. I'm worried about all of this accumulation that is built up to attack every single one of us that isn't the 99%, right? To a point where, you know, I was feeling socially disconnected from friends, from family. Do you know that kind of way? I'm feeling like a fucking afterthought, man. Do you know that kind of way? That's where I was mentally, and I was kind of going like, I could wallow in this. I could digest this. It'll take time, and I'll get through it. There's no problem. I've been here before. But as I was like alluding to at the start of the podcast, is I'm fucking tired. I'm tired of all of the accumulated pressure. I'm tired of waiting for something. I want to fight back. I want to fight back against this, and I'm gonna be fucking partially more I'm going to be more personally forceful with myself. Do you know what I mean? I'm going to kind of go, yes, this is fucking hard. This is shit. And I'm emotionally, I'm fucking down in the dumps. And do you know what I mean? You could easily stay in that fucking bed and lie down, or you could get the fuck up and you could go out and you could fucking run 5K. Do you know that kind of way? Because that's what you do normally. And I was thinking, okay, fine, I'm gonna fucking do it. I'm gonna fucking do that, right? And I was like, my mind was roaring at me, going, "What the fuck are you doing? Sit the fuck down. Do you want to get back into bed?" Do you know what I mean? I was snapping at people, man. And this is only like last week or whatever, or the week before, and fucking, I was just like, you know what? Discipline over motivation, and that's another David Goggins thing that stuck with me. And it's like, yeah. Acknowledge where you were, accept the fact that it is shit, yet you are being overburdened, you are being overwhelmed, and this is fucking hard, and that makes you strong as fuck, man. Do you know that kind of way? That makes any single person that fucking does, that's the same with, you know, like Lisa Quarles, say for instance, as far as I'm concerned, she's hard as fuck. Do you know that kind of way? Do you know what I mean? You normally associate a big burly bald lad walking on the street, fucking, if he walks any harder, he'll turn to stone. But honestly, if you look in the face of that an over encumberdness, that a burden that's fucking eating away at you on a daily fucking basis, then you are hard, then you are fucking strong, you are fucking tough, and you might have to fucking remind yourself of this, but you can fucking pick yourself the fuck up. I mean, it's not a switch, mind. I had to sort of remind myself to a point where I was processing through these emotions in this depressed state to get to that point where I'm just going to go, do you know what? Fucking, let's have it. Let's fucking have it. I'm coming into the ring, man, and I'm going to fucking swing. Do you know that kind of way? I'm not going to just sit down in the corner and complain that I'm tired. Anyway, that might seem quite physical and sporty-esque, but it can be applied to any sort of mentality. It doesn't necessarily have to be that sort of aggressive, but you need that sort of aggressive kick up the arse from yourself that is reasonable and logically thought out on occasion, you know?
But you've also kind of unwittingly spoke of the capitalist idea of then that being, there's your motivator. You know, you need to eat, go get a job and eat. Do you know what I mean? So again, the life is fucking hard enough. There's going to be enough tragedy befall each of us. We are going to love, we are going to lose, we are going to experience death, we are going to experience great tragedy, we're going to experience great beauty and ecstasy and everything else as well. But ultimately, there will be enough tragedy in all of our lives to traumatize us as individual fucking people and harden us and damage us in ways that it will take lifetimes if we're all lucky to see the consequences of that. But they shouldn't ever, in my opinion, be economic. They shouldn't ever be financial. Like I said, they're motivators enough to harden you, to give you the opportunity to face the tough reality of life, and that is to be reminded that everybody fucking dies, and every day people suffer, and every day you don't suffer, that's a good fucking day. Yeah, you may not have got that promotion, you may not have done whatever else or been able to achieve whatever minor goals you've set, but each day that you were able to wake, rise, obtain a certain amount of goals, and then go back to sleep again in good health, is a good fucking day. And I think they're the small realizations that we miss, you know. Yeah, I mean, the little gratitude.
But what I'm saying to you as well, sort of, no, I fully agree with everything that you said, and these are things that you should celebrate because these add up, and they counteract that overwhelming pressure. And it's not necessarily we've got to get, you know what I mean, you've got to get a job, you've got to eat and stuff. Here's the reality of the situation, though. We are all in this modern day slavery, right? And that's what it is, because nobody chose to be in this situation. Do you know what I mean? When you're born, you are automatically entered into this. You are a financial burden to your parents. That is a fact, right? It's like people that dilute, like say the Black Lives Matter by say, for instance, going, well, you know, racism is a social construct and I don't believe in it, so therefore it doesn't exist. Right. First and foremost, has validity in an idyllic world. Unfortunately, you do not live in an idyllic fucking world. So you can aspire to have this as a global aspiration. Absolutely. All day you can. But you live here, my friend. That's where you live. In the real world, where people are racist, where people come down on other people, where people, do you know that kind of way? So it's, yeah, I guess that's what I'm trying to apply to the previous point that I made. Do you know what I mean?
Vaguely, yeah. I think I get you.
All right. Well, yeah. Okay. Fair enough. I don't know, man. The point I'm trying to say, I guess, is right. For the majority of the 99% of people, that obligation is there. You need money to eat, right? Yeah. However, I'm not celebrating that by my aggressive sort of beefed up sort of discipline speech, right? Because I didn't want to use motivation there, because as I said, motivation is bullshit. You can talk yourself out of being motivated, but if you've got fucking good discipline, you'll do it anyway. Do you see? But these are things that you got to learn. This isn't something that I'd expect every single person to have an affinity towards, to be able to actually do it. I'm not. There's levels to it. You and I know that. Do you know that kind of way? There's echelons to all of this. So my aggressive sort of again, I'm trying to find a word for motivation that isn't motivation, isn't is isn't a necessity. I guess it's just something that has helped me, and it's helped
Hmm.
me because I've I've overtly gone the opposite way in terms of being overly passive,
Hmm.
being not clear in verbalization. I'm like that anyway, but I'm talking about being like accepting of something that I wouldn't normally be. Do you see what I'm saying? But now I'm just
Hmm.
pushing back. I'm just going, well, no, I don't believe that, and I'm not trying to make it into a polarized thing anymore. I'm not trying to make it me versus you. I'm not trying to go, well, you're fucking wrong, aren't you? It's not. I am just stating where I am, and that has removed an awful lot of the excessive burden that has you know added to the accumulation of pressures that you face on an everyday basis, I guess.
Yeah, so it's like it's an empowerment thing, really,
It's a
ultimately.
self-empowerment thing, but
Yeah, yeah.
it's not something.
It's a switch in mentality. Ultimately, there is a thing that obviously is discussed often in our culture, quite often sort of in irrational ways, of a victim mentality. Of the, as we've discussed, that everyone is the protagonist of their own narrative, and effectively we all have this inner monologue that tells us what the world is and how it's framed. Few people realize they have the ability to edit and change that narrative, and their actions, their intentions, and their daily rituals and habits form that narrative. And they end up getting sort of lost within it. But then people, through whatever discipline, whatever pursuit, or whatever conscious choice or consequence to tragedy or extreme intervention, or even just through epiphanous realization, people then come to these points of realization that, holy fuck, I am sentient, I am conscious, I am here. What is this stuff? Do you know what I mean? Like, I often do it. I will sometimes just verbalize to myself, I am whatever age I am. This is what I'm doing with my life. Just as a thing to kind of just grab myself to just be like, shit. Do you know what I mean? So then I do it every few years. So then the next time I hear it, I'm like, I'm 32. I'm like, what? When did that happen?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And you can keep that kind of chronology, because unfortunately our brain tricks ourselves into just living in this really immediacy, this stuff right in front of us, and we've got the blinders on of our own individual, cultural, and sort of national prejudices, and sort of belief systems, traditions, which, as we've discussed many times, is just fucking peer pressure from dead people, the archaic institutions that then provide governance, that then provide educational structure, etc. All of this is then pervading and pushed onto us, and then we have these opportunities, and again, psychedelic entheogenic compounds, cannabis, and various other things, yoga, meditation, even like sort of, I've had fighters discuss it as well, of this post-fight clarity, of this sudden just woof presence, just fucking presence. Race drivers as well, like anybody that does something that requires this certain level of tuning in, you suddenly become, fuck, oh my god, and it's like you're a kid again. You see that world afresh, and you have that opportunity. Oh, and you question shit, and you go like, why do I own this stuff? Why is my house set up this way? What am I
Yeah.
doing with my job? You know, am I happy in my relationship? What do I want to do? What do I want to aspire to? Oh man, 20 years ago I wanted to write this book. I could write this book now. You know, whatever. People have these things that we file away and go, someday, someday. It's the biggest killer of all dreams, is someday. And then we
Exactly.
forget about it because of the immediacy. We get stuck within the stress and the needs of our immediate environment. Provide shelter, continue to have security of home, continue to maintain a certain number of social connections through friendships, maintain relationships at your work, make sure that you're abiding by the fucking law. You know what I mean? Make sure that you're keeping up with the Joneses, making sure that you're not making social faux pas or breaking certain etiquettes, keeping up with the fashion as well, so your hair's right, your clothes right. All of these fucking confines and restrictions on existence. And then these moments give us that opportunity, like I said, to glimpse it. The Japanese Buddhists call it satori, the brief
Story. Yeah.
moment of enlightenment where everything kind of drops the fuck away and you have this real moment of existence. But then you kind of clock that you're having it and it's gone. But that's what they aspire to. Buddhists will meditate for decades. They will literally spend their lives, they will dedicate themselves to their craft to glimpse this goddamn thing. And yet you can find it doing the washing up. If you follow Zen pursuits, if you then try to engage with yourself in this way, everything can be. Sitting on the toilet, brushing your teeth. It's just, mindfulness has swept the West recently, and that's a secular version of Buddhism. Basically, they've taken a lot of the points out. They've find off meditation, and they've hashed out something that kind of is half workable.
Yeah, but
But
I still hear the words Clear your mind.
Oh well, yeah. Again, no, but that's
You
prompted
fucking idiot.
yeah, that's prompted the idea of gurus, of the need of hierarchy. Again, of this idea, you've got to buy a service, you have to buy the mat, wear the clothing, dress the certain way, and act a certain way in order to gain it, and you don't. You really fucking don't. It's just a conscious choice to kind of go, oh, shut the fuck up. And you start with a conscious, you just sit down. Most of us do without realizing. And what you're doing is you're passively allowing your thoughts to go through. Meditation isn't the emptying of your mind. That's an impossibility. You cannot do it.
You still hear it. You still hear it. It's fucking hilarious. It's like, fuck me. Empty your mind. You first, mate.
But that's the fun of it. Then if you can start to engage with that and have that conversation, you are at the point where meditation is most useful. Your ego and your superego are engaging in a conversation. And if in those moments you can have that levity and that joy with yourself, if instead of being judgmental, you can be forgiving, you will transform your relationship. So instead of next time you stub your toe, you smashing your phone out of rage or whatever, you'll be able to kind of laugh that moment and almost apologize to yourself internally. Have this kind of, well, that was silly. Do you know what I mean? You change, again, that internal dialogue is so fucking important. But yet media and common pop culture will have you, oh, they're talking to themselves, they're crazy, no, they're reprogramming, they're retuning, they're finding out who the fuck they am, and they're questioning the shit. Do you know what I mean? In older ancient cultures and first world nations, it was those people, it was the people that were talking to themselves, it was the people that were now diagnosing as schizophrenics that we're calling weirdos and outcasts. They were put on the pedestals of these cultures because they're so further than the constraints of that culture. They could envision new worlds. They could discuss new concepts. They could bring to light new ideas that otherwise wouldn't be there. Think of the shit that we've got, the concepts and ideas and the potential social evolution that we are missing because these people are confined within asylums. They are given this fiction. That's not affliction. Not affliction. I'm trying to say asphyxia. Not when you affix something to it is what I'm trying to say. And I can't
asphyxiation.
No, but that's strangling, isn't it?
No, that's asphyxiation.
Language is fun, but you know what I mean? You affix this term, this describer to them, and they then carry this, and that then installs this victim mentality. I am this because I have this diagnosis. And it disempowers people. And this is one of the common arguments against modern psychiatry is, yes, it's all well and good. It can be useful knowing I have this condition. That's why maybe I am this way. If you use that for empowerment. But if you use that for self-driving fucking destruction of going, well, I don't have to engage with people and I can be dicks to people because I've got anxiety and I don't have to engage with certain, I don't know, social etiquettes or just decency and good etiquette when dealing with the humans, and you excuse it onto these things, you're falling down a slippery slope where you can very quickly end up lost to another label. Do you know what I mean? And we are not labels. We are not. You can define me in many ways. You can define me as a man. You can define me as white. You can define me as British. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? But I am not British or white or you can break those down, but none of those things are me. They are descriptors of me. I am who I choose to be when I wake up each morning and how I act that day. You can use the entirety of my history and knowing me as a metric to make an estimation or an approximation as who I may be to you that day and how I may act. But the beautiful thing, the most powerful thing, the only fucking thing that matters is I have the capability that day to do anything. Anything. Every one of us does. And that's the empowering thing. Despite the narrative in your head, that installed programs going, you can't do this and you don't have the money. And if you'd have done this 20 years ago, or if you got that degree instead of this, you'd be able. That's all just pre-programmed bullshit. You are hidden behind that. Your consciousness is encaged. And if you can do whatever pursuit it is to empower, to embiggen, and to find that and to feed it, you strengthen that muscle. And soon it becomes easier to exercise it. And then you become second nature to it. And then you become challenging, not in a way of anxiety and of nervousness and of paranoia of going, what if this? You kind of go, out of curiosity, out of interest and the need for discovery, you go, what is this? What does this mean? How does this fit with this? That curiosity, that intrigue is the thing that is missing most from our culture and our society, whether it be that we've demonized them through mental illness or we've ruined their lives because they have a higher proclivity to take drugs. We have removed some of the best visionaries from our culture for over 70 fucking years, 80, 100 years. Actually, if you look on the grander scale, you think of the trajectory of human history throughout the 20th century, what scope and potential direction we could have gone in if this fucking war on drugs hadn't happened, if modern psychiatry hadn't have been weaponized against the people it sought to or proclaimed to help. Sorry, I went on a bit of a rant there.
You also finished very abrupt there. I thought you were going to continue going for a couple more sentences, and it was just like, whoa, okay, fair enough. You know, you're right. I mean, yeah, we certainly wouldn't have had any of that 80s or 70s or 80s fucking depressing grey brown architecture. I'm almost certain that was called the Depression era in terms of architecture. I'm not even joking. I'm pretty sure that was the type of building, and more often than not, they're used for some sort of. I mean, you've seen it. You've seen the
government buildings,
courthouses and stuff. They look at you, go. It's like someone's vomited.
Pebble dashed long rectangle windows, lots of cubes.
You
and
can
straight lines.
see those people being depressed as fuck. Probably the only stimulant they had was tea. Do you know that kind of way?
I
like the color of this.
Coffee and endless cigarettes in an unbelievably cloudy room, hand drawing with a ruler and pencil. No curves allowed.
That's it.
These are the buildings. This is the function. This no fun. There is no other purpose. These shall never be. Actually, saying that, there is in a housing estate in Peterlee. There is this weird, like dip where they flooded, and it's like just a platform, and it's just shapes, and it won some European Architecture Award. But it is emblematic of exactly the style that you were discussing there.
It's funny though. I don't know. Maybe they can be. The figurative? No, because they're not figurative. It's literal. They can be the literal image-based monuments that we need to fucking destroy.
So in the same way that they're trying to remove the statues of colonizers, so we need to do this as a way to disrupt and kind of remove any homage to that kind of level of depressing and boring architecture.
Yeah, I think so. Eventually they'll just go and people will go, everybody in the entire fucking city that you're living in or whatever, just all take a simultaneous hit and look at that fucking building and go, man.
Actually, I probably those buildings were probably designed more for economics than anything else, because if you then think of modern house building since, other than few exceptions, apart from when you're building to higher end, the economic, as it were, from lower economic and premium sort of spectrum, budget would be lower, if you know what I mean, then they are built to maximize profits. They are built so that they go, okay, we're going to build 100 houses. If we then make each house have exactly this number of bricks, we can order that from this supplier, and it gets us a price break. They work out all of those costs, so it's never about the end use. You look at the snag list that occurs on the average fucking new build house. It's insane.
They're shite, yeah, I know, yeah. Cardboard.
Yeah, you've got stuff that was designed with love and with passion that's deliberately like leaning out like this. It's got wonky windows. We'll look at Shambles in York. You know what I mean? You go down Sadler Street in Durham. You go down a lot of these really old fucking, almost still medieval parts of the architecture. That was built to fucking last, and it was built to serve a function at the time. And it was now being kept as a testament to that passion and that vision. But whereas everything we've built kind of since is either a garish attempt at, woo, look at our wonderful architecture, or it's, here's your bare box, minimal functional fucking economic bullshit.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
Go live in it. You can put stuff on the walls, but be careful because you might break them down.
You might walk through it.
Yeah,
like, but if you're gonna make them like that, can we at least adopt the fucking traditional Japanese as a style architecture with the sliding doors? You know what I mean, and really light fucking see-through walls and stuff. As at least they looked fucking good. Do you know that kind of way? Anyway,
right, yeah.
I said I have never been to Japan. I really want to go to Japan. Anyway,
we might be able to get the opportunity before too long. See what the world does over the next coming 6, 12 months. I suppose it'll be another fucking several months before we sat here having another one of these podcast recordings.
You need a little yellow dot, about that big. That's what you need, right? And you need to pop it right in the middle of the weed sign. So it's we educate. Oh yeah. That was really lame.
Super lame. Oh, the light split. Remember to get. It was on my bookcase for a while, but I figured I'd put it up.
Nah, that's good, man. That's good.
Drove out of my way to the town of Weed in California to go and buy that thing. To be very depressed to find that I think that weed is actually in a dry county, so they don't actually sell weed.
So, did you have a wee in weed?
No, I stopped at a gas station. The weed shop. It was called the Weed Shop, and they just sold really cliched, cheesy memorabilia of like Americana that then just had weed written on it.
But you didn't go to the bathroom.
No, I think I was en route somewhere else. I did not weed and weed.
You didn't weed and weed.
No weed and weed.
Sake. Get your shit together, mate.
I did stop to put a few slaps on a couple of signs, I think. But other than that, no. There's not really much in weed. It's quite a very small place. I thought they would have taken advantage of it and been like, we could create a tourist global attraction here. Come to Weed, California. I mean, who's not going to want to go to Weed, California? It just sounds awesome. Yeah, missing a trick. That's what we hope to be able to. I say we. I know that myself and several of the other people involved in Durham City Cannabis Club want to make Durham just a hotspot. That's the vision for up here, man. Is that you come to the north, you want to come to the north to try fucking good weed.
Oh well, yeah, absolutely. But I'll tell you what, man. The second we have the opportunity to open some sort of cafe, like I mean, I'm not talking about like an Amsterdam cafe, although that too, but like a tiny little homemade, community, locally sourced like food and coffee and I don't know, stuff like that, and then just like honestly, and any sort of excess profit just goes back into the community, and it's centered around fucking, weed as well. Just smoke all fucking day or consume whichever way or whatever, and the food could be like, it could be like fucking nutritionally calculated for say athletes, but also fucking vegan, and you could have like fucking, if you wanted a slap up meal and you don't care about any of that stuff, well, go somewhere else. And I'm joking. But no, just this like, full like, I don't know, like community serving and just a warm hug for the community. The second I have an opportunity to do that, I'm fucking doing it.
Yeah, you and many other fucking people. I think that is the ultimate goal and vision. Whether it turns out to be a club, a coffee shop, or a dispensary, people want to create these community hubs, these educational spaces and centers for socialization. They want people to be able to come and gather together and feel free and comfortable and safe. To be able to go, I am a cannabis consumer. Here's what I know, and talk to somebody else who is accepting of them, gleeful and willing and happy to commune with them, and is happy to create a new bond and a new friendship and relationship with them. And I think that's the vision that drives me for everything that we've done previously with Durham Club, and that we will be with anything moving forward. It's about community. Yes, there will be profit and there'll be money made and whatever, but as you said, it's about
the lights on, man, and feed yourself and stay warm, and then everything else just goes back into some sort of fucking helping people or fucking employing people. Fucking boss.
Exactly. Community rehabilitation centers.
You're fucking class, lad. You class, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the vision. That's the ultimate goal. I think I'm about.
He's about to actually disintegrate into tiredness. Have you seen? Like he slowly became me throughout the entirety of the episode. He was like, "Oh shit."
It's been a long day. Still just trying to got the last two paragraphs of this week's last week in weed blog to get that up tonight, and then
it's nice to see the inverse for once, because I'm usually set down for 12 hours or whatever. Fucking.
I suppose it's bank holiday. Yeah,
exactly.
It, yeah.
I'm not. I have a fresh memory today. Well, said
Well, yeah, I've thoroughly enjoyed this. I always enjoy. Sorry, choking on that crude oil.
Do not forget to subscribe. Oh yeah. He's been Simpa. I've been Maca. Here's some fucking Patreon stuff.
Yeah, with that, if you've survived all the way through this, folks, thank you first of all. We'll be back next week with Hannah Deacon. We've got a lot of guests that we've got compiled in a very large list at the minute. We're just trying to organize who comes when and in what order to ensure that we're getting the most relevant guests, the most relevant news. There's obviously a lot of movement within hemp and CBD in the UK at the minute and within the air quotes medical cannabis industry. So we are trying to get some more representatives that can give us updates on what is going on with the various blah, blah, blah. Brain's just gone dead. Various fights to advance legislation and to move forward the conversation around air quotes legalization, air quotes decriminalization here in the UK. Just want to shout out that we are doing, although you won't see this, do check out the special live that I will have done in 2 days' time, but you'll have seen now, hopefully in the future. Another Wayne's World reference right there. Yeah, we're doing a live with Winston Matthews and Alan Buffery this Thursday. A special conversation about old school activism, how activism has changed over the past sort of 20, 30 years. This will be a brilliant live. So if you haven't had opportunity, go check it out. I'm hoping it went well. I think it'll have gone well. But thank you very much for checking us out. As always, we are available at the Simpa Life all over the place on all social media. Check us out for our weekly lives on a Thursday at 7 p.m. as well, where you will find me talking shit with various guests or just consuming various products from around the UK. It's a fun old time, so come and join us on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook. Check us out, as you've seen, on patreon.com/Simpa Life. I'm going to stop chattering shit. I'm going to let you get on with your lives.